Hello everyone. Welcome back to this channel. Sometimes, the most powerful moments are not the ones that happen in front of thousands of cameras. Sometimes, they are hidden inside something much smaller. A few seconds of video. A familiar song. A gesture that seems ordinary. Or a detail that most people would simply scroll past. But when fans began comparing the latest updates from Zhang Linghe Tian Xiwei, something felt strangely familiar. And suddenly, fans were asking the same question. Did Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei just send each other a hidden signal? At first, it looked like another ordinary social media update. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that clearly revealed anything. Just a vlog, a few everyday moments, music playing quietly in the background, and glimpses into their separate worlds. But then fans started looking closer. And once they began comparing the details, the story became much more interesting. Because this wasn't about one single clue. It was about a series of little similarities that appeared close enough together to make people stop and wonder. Was this really just coincidence? Or was there something else hiding between the lines? The first thing fans noticed was the timing. Tian Xiwei had previously shared vlog content featuring a relaxed, almost intimate atmosphere. It was the kind of video that didn't seem designed to create controversy. It felt natural. Quiet. Personal. Then, not long afterward, Zhang Linghe shared his own vlog. And fans immediately began comparing the two. The atmosphere. The visual details. The feeling of the footage. Even the way certain moments were presented. At first, many people simply called it coincidence. And honestly, that would make sense. Actors live in the same entertainment industry. They follow similar trends. They work with similar production teams. They visit similar places. They can easily use similar music or create similar content without communicating with each other at all. But then came another detail. The music. And this is where the fan detective story became much more emotional. Fans noticed the background music in Zhang Linghe's vlog. Then they connected it with music associated with Tian Xiwei's earlier content. Suddenly, people weren't just watching the videos anymore. They were comparing them. Frame by frame. Moment by moment. Some fans began asking. Why this song? Why at this particular moment? Why did the music later change? And when the background music was changed, the speculation became even louder. For some fans, that small change felt like another piece of the puzzle. For others, it was simply a normal editing decision. And that difference in interpretation is exactly what made the conversation explode. Because the same moment can tell two completely different stories. One person sees coincidence. Another sees a clue. One person sees an ordinary vlog. Another sees a message that was never meant to be spoken out loud. And perhaps that is why this story has captured so much attention. There was no dramatic confession. No public announcement. No obvious statement saying, this was meant for someone. Instead, there were only details. Small details. Details that became bigger because fans were willing to look again. And again. And again. But then came the question that changed the entire conversation. If these similarities were intentional, who were they intended for? Was Zhang Linghe simply sharing another part of his daily life? Was Tian Xiwei doing exactly the same? Or could these two separate updates somehow have been connected? Fans have their theories. Some believe the timing is too interesting to ignore. Others believe the music choice is worth examining. And some have even started comparing gestures, visual compositions, and small elements in the background. The deeper they looked, the more connections they thought they found. But there is something important we have to remember. A similarity is not proof of a secret message. A song is not a confession. A matching visual is not confirmation. And a fan theory, no matter how convincing it may feel, remains a theory unless the people involved confirm it themselves. That distinction matters. Especially when two popular celebrities are involved. Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei have already attracted enormous attention because of their chemistry and their work together. Their on-screen connection made fans emotionally invested. And when audiences become attached to a pair of actors, even the smallest interaction can suddenly feel significant. A glance becomes a clue. A smile becomes a theory. A song becomes a message. And silence. Sometimes, silence becomes the biggest mystery of all. But what makes this particular situation different is the way fans are approaching it. They aren't simply waiting for another romantic scene. They're investigating. They're comparing. They're asking questions. They're trying to understand whether several independent moments might actually be connected. And that is where the phrase hidden signal began to take on a life of its own. Imagine the scene. You are watching Tian Xiwei's vlog. You notice a familiar atmosphere. You continue watching. Days later, Zhang Linghe posts something new. You watch it casually. Then suddenly. Wait. Didn't I see something like this before? You go back. You replay the clip. You check the music. You compare the timing. You look at the gestures. And then you realize. There are similarities. Maybe they mean nothing. Maybe they mean everything. And that tiny moment of uncertainty is enough to keep people watching. Because fans aren't only asking what happened. They're asking what could have happened. That is a much more powerful question. And then came the reactions. Across fan discussions, people began expressing completely different opinions. Some were excited. Some were skeptical. Some simply wanted to enjoy the chemistry without turning every detail into a relationship theory. And others? They wanted to investigate every possible clue. One fan might say, "There's no way all of this is random." Another might respond, "We're reading too much into it." And somewhere between those two opinions lies the most fascinating part of the story. We simply don't know. And perhaps that's why the mystery continues. Because if Zhang Linghe or Tian Xiwei had openly explained everything, the story would be over. But when nothing is confirmed, the questions remain. Could the music have been chosen for a personal reason? Could the timing have been completely accidental? Could the similarities simply come from two celebrities creating content within the same trends? Absolutely. But could fans have noticed something that was intentionally subtle? That possibility is what keeps the conversation alive. And then there is the emotional side of this story. For fans who followed Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei through their work together, these moments can feel surprisingly personal. They remember the chemistry. They remember the scenes. They remember the small expressions that made audiences believe there was something special between the characters. So when similar energy appears outside the screen, it can be difficult not to wonder. Was that chemistry only acting? Or did something about their connection continue to resonate beyond the drama? But again, that is where we have to separate emotion from evidence. The emotional interpretation belongs to the fans. The confirmed facts belong to Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei. And so far, neither has publicly confirmed that these vlogs were designed as secret messages to each other. Neither has confirmed that the music changes were romantic signals. And there has been no official confirmation that these similarities prove a relationship. So the mystery remains exactly that. A mystery. Yet perhaps there is something beautiful about that uncertainty. Because sometimes, fandom isn't only about knowing the answer. Sometimes, it's about experiencing the moment together. Millions of people watching the same few seconds. Noticing different things. Sharing different interpretations. And asking the same question. What if? What if the timing really meant something? What if the music really was a subtle choice? What if that small gesture wasn't as random as it appeared? Or, what if everything was simply coincidence? Maybe years from now, we'll look back at these moments and laugh. Maybe one day Zhang Linghe or Tian Xiwei will explain the truth. Or maybe nothing will ever be explained. And the mystery will remain part of the story. But for now, one thing is undeniable. Fans are watching. They're paying attention. And every new vlog has become more than just a vlog. It has become another piece of a puzzle. A puzzle that nobody can completely solve. And perhaps that's why one simple question continues to echo through the fandom. Did Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei really send each other a hidden signal? Or did fans simply discover a beautiful pattern inside a series of coincidences? Maybe the answer is obvious to you. Maybe you've already made up your mind. So now, I want to hear from you. When you compare Zhang Linghe's vlog with Tian Xiwei's, do you see a genuine connection? Or do you think fans are connecting dots that were never meant to be connected? Look at the timing. Look at the music. Look at the small details. And most importantly, look at the evidence before deciding what the story means. Because sometimes, the smallest clue creates the biggest mystery. And sometimes, the biggest mystery is simply the question we can't stop asking. Coincidence? Or hidden signal? You decide.